What's up guys, I'm Tyler, and today on stream we went over the recent changes in patch 1.07, so I'm just going to show you guys what went down there. Real quick before that starts, you can find the stream at twitch.tv/TylerShanks_, and we also have a Discord server you guys can join. We talk about this kind of stuff all the time. Link for both of those are in the description, so go and check those out. Enjoy the video, guys. So yeah, real quick to go over the changes of Sage. Her heal was reduced from 100 over 5 seconds to 60 over 5 seconds. That's for allies. And the self-heal was reduced from 100 over 5 seconds to 60 over 10 seconds. So it's going to be 60 over 10 seconds. So that's a long time for a self-heal. And you can see the bar on the bottom left too, showing you how long it's going to take. And you can see it's only going to be 60. So it's going to get me up to 94, I think, or 93. Yeah, 94. So that's a pretty big nerf to Sage's heal and her self-heal. I do think that those are necessary. I'll go over all my thoughts on them after. But here are the other changes. The wall... Let's see, the cost was reduced from 400 to 300, which is huge. But the barrier wall forms at 400 HP, and after a 3-second delay, it becomes fortified to 800. So right now they're weak, and 3 seconds later, they'll be full. So you can't really use this as much as a reactive thing, like straight up, which you see a lot of B. You'll see people peeking here and listening, and then they'll throw the wall up. So you can't really do this because it'll be shot out almost immediately, unless you have that 3 seconds go by. And then it'll be up to 800, which is like normal. So that's kind of a good change too, I think. One more change. Easy if I should show it from up here. These slow orbs, the size was reduced by 30%. So I know I don't have a comparison here, but that is pretty significantly smaller. And while at first it does seem pretty terrible, I do think it has its uses. So as for her changes and how they affect Sage, the heal is a straight up nerf. That's the worst one. But I do think it was necessary. The fact that she was the only healer and she could heal 100% was, I thought it was kind of a problem. And if she does go through further nerfs, I wouldn't be surprised if a res wouldn't heal people to 100. But that's just speculation there. Her heal, I do think it's a good change. I think it's kind of needed. She was really overtuned, and being the only healer kind of just emphasized that. And bringing her heal down to a more normal level where, you know, it takes longer for her to heal herself, and herself heal and her heal of teammates is a little bit less. I think it makes more sense. So I think those changes are fine. The wall change kind of sucks, but she really was the best staller in the game, because she could just throw her wall up and then throw two slow orbs, and that would take a very long time. So I think that change is kind of a good change. You can't like use it just to react. You have to kind of preemptively put it up if you know somebody's pushing there. So it takes a bit more prediction, a bit more skill, I think. And also the biggest thing was the cost reduction. So that cost reduction really brings her down to be able to buy more throughout games, obviously. And with that buying power she has, she will be able to buy more walls, more other utility, and more guns and stuff, and also buy for her teammates too. I think that's a huge change. And it also kind of makes the idea of using the wall to boost teammates for like op angles or something. I think that's like a more of an option now. So you can like see, I forget where the spot is, but either way, you have different wall spots now where you can see different angles, and I think that's going to be a lot more viable just because of how cheap the wall is now. Before, I thought it was a real waste because the wall was so useful because of its utility and the fact that it was an 800 barrier immediately. I thought it was way more useful. But now I think that using it to peak angles, I saw it be used a whole lot of higher level gameplay. And I think it's going to be a lot more viable because of how cheap it is. And also, I think that this also strengthens her on offense too. Because when post plant goes down, you're going to have some time, because everybody knows like you want to get the wall here. So that wall is going to have some time to harden up before enemies push in. So I think that she's going to be a bit more powerful on offense. And also one more thing is her slow orbs, which got reduced in size. These, obviously it seems like a pretty bad nerf initially, but I don't think it's that bad really, because usually I always felt that the slow orb was so big, when I threw it down, I wouldn't be able to push through areas just because it would cover more than I wanted to. If I wanted to, like, if I was on offense, let's say, and I wanted to slow a guy back here, and you throw it somewhere like this, that would cover like everything and you wouldn't be able to push past. But now it's a little bit more tight and a little bit more exactly where you want it to be. So I think it's a bit better on offense just because it'll not hinder your own teammates. And on defense, normally you didn't need that much area covered anyway. If there was a slow orb here, you weren't going to push past that anyway. like that's still a lot of area, and the fact that it's smaller now doesn't really make much of a difference on defense because you are going to hold that area anyway. They're still going to be slowed, especially on choke points, because like the size really doesn't matter there. Just because like that choke point is slowed, like period, end of story. It doesn't need to be slowed more. Like the choke is slowed, so I don't think that change really is a huge deal. I think it almost makes her better and just cleans it up a little bit, just because it makes it easier for teammates to push past it if you have the placement in the right spot. So overall, I don't think Sage really took that much of a hit. Really, the worst thing was her heal. Everything else was kind of in line with what I think needed to be done to Sage. She's not really a must pick anymore in my eyes. I wouldn't call her the only S tier hero now. I don't know if she's still in S tier overall, but either way, she's definitely more in tune with the rest of the heroes, the rest of the cast. And yeah, I'm really happy with Sage changes overall, to be honest. I want to see how it plays out though. Give it a few weeks to see what people think and how it affects pick rates and things like that. But let's see, Killjoy Nanoswarm added a brief windup before damage begins. DPS reduced from 60 to 40. Visual effects have been added to make it easier to spot the grenade on the ground. Stealth audio range has been slightly increased. And also, her turret is no longer revealed by Sova's recon bolt and more effectively shoots enemies' last known locations. Okay. So the Nanoswarm changes were probably pretty good, just because this thing was the best post-plant option. Even though you could shoot it out, it was still the best if you just planted those down and hid. You could also put them in weird spots too, because like, what the heck? That's not what I meant to do. You can put them in weird spots and still pretty much reach where that the bomb diffuse spots. So the fact that that was reduced is definitely a good thing. They were kind of overtuned. The damage was reduced too. So now you don't have to worry as much if you are planting. Those things were just very oppressive, and the fact that you can just pre-place them really kind of was a problem. So now it's going to be, you're going to need to have lineups more, I think, especially because they were also, the visual effect has been added to make it easier to spot the grenade on the ground, and the stealth audio range has been increased. So people are going to spot those out if you have them down on your planted bomb already. So those are probably all good changes because she really was so good post-plant, and I think that this will kind of lend more towards her having to know lineups like other people with mollies. I don't think that having her have those like set up already should really be a thing, because it was like way too easy, I feel like. So I think that kind of brings her more in line with other heroes too, and I think that change was necessary. And the turret change is nothing really crazy here. I guess you can say it got buffed because Sova arrows no longer reveal its location. I think that's kind of like whatever. Enemies can hear it anyway, so it's not really a big deal. It kind of gives you less information if you are Sova shooting it. You don't know who's there. If no one gets pinged and you hit the turret, you're not going to know you hit the turret, so you don't really know if Killjoy's there or not. Kind of a small change. Sova's just going to have to think about it. It really only affects one hero, though. And also, it's more effectively shoots enemies' last known locations. That just seems like a cleanup thing, kind of like a bug fix almost. So nothing crazy there. I think these are good changes, though. Slight nerf, but I think they're good. So Viper, her Toxic Screen can now be placed during the buy phase of rounds through spawn barriers, and Toxic Screen now goes up faster along its full length once it starts to form. So you can see him in the buy phase here, and I can shoot this straight through. So that's a huge change. You used to have to wait a long time. She went over some really great changes recently. You remember at the beginning of the game, you used to have to look straight up through holes in the sky, in the ceiling or whatever, to like get the barrier to where you want. Now it can go through walls, and now you can put it down pre-round. So that's huge, because now you don't have to line up this. You can just have your lineup ready for something else. So you can line up a Viper's Pit or your smoke grenade. You can line those up while the barriers go down instead of wasting your time putting that down. So that's kind of a huge thing. I think that's a great change. And also it goes up faster. Kill them. Toxins going up. That's also really big, because if you're, one place that I like to hold this a lot is on bind. And you can kind of see it here. You would be holding somewhere like this on A, and you would put your Toxic Screen down on B, just so you could like help out B instead of A. And then you would kind of have to react to your teammates' calls and seeing what you could see on the minimap. And a lot of times you were too late putting that screen up just because it took so long to reach that edge. So this change was huge. I think that's a big upgrade for Viper, and I think that definitely is going to help her positioning in the meta and on tier lists and things like that. But the other big one is that decay no longer affects allies. That was the biggest issue with her ultimate, is that you could sit in it all you want and you got the advantages of sitting in it. Enemies couldn't really see you as much, so as they were approaching you, you could see their gun sticking out before they saw you. So that was generally a good thing, and a really good change, a really good thing overall, just for having Viper's ult down. But your teammates couldn't take advantage of that, because if they were in it and an enemy got the jump on them, they would already be at something like 1 health anyway. So it was really, detrimental for a teammate to be in there, just because of how much health they would lose. But the fact that they don't lose it now, that's just going to make Viper's ult a lot more viable in any situation because teammates can use it way more effectively. And also, it's things like her grenade too. If you do something like this, I've seen people put this here and just sit here with a shorty, just waiting for enemies to push through. You can now like do that with two people, and your teammate can just do it without you. So you can a lot more effectively use your utility on different bomb sites for your allies. You used to only really be able to use the toxic screen, which underwent some great changes. But now you can also use something like the smoke grenade. If you know you're gonna hold A and your teammate needs help on B, you can throw that there pre-round and just chill at A. And if they're pushing B, just hit your poison orb and they're gonna have a little bit more help there, and they can play inside of it if they want to. That's a huge change to both the ult and to this and the toxic screen too. I think those are huge changes overall. And also Viper's Pit, the area is now shown on teammates minimaps. That's just a good quality of life change. I think that should have been there for a long time anyway. So the fact that people can see that on the minimap, like you can see it very precisely too. You can see that it doesn't cover up there. So and teammates will know if they're trying to retake or push in, they know there might be a slight angle there for them to be seen. So I think that's a really good change too. And overall, I think Viper is a lot more viable now. I think you're going to see her a lot more. So go and check out the YouTube videos about my Viper lineups. Those are going to be a lot more useful. Off-screen flashes now match behavior of other flashes in the game and apply a minimum amount of flash more aggressively. Charges increase from 2 to 3. That's absolutely incredible. And reduce the wind-up time from 0.6 seconds to 0.5 seconds. You can see that, again, normal flash time, really long. I still hope that they can change that one day so that flash screen is black instead of white. Because if you're playing in like just the light, I hate that light. But yeah, now if you're not looking at it, it's a lot shorter now. So that's going to be better in tune with Phoenix's flash. So that was actually a pretty solid nerf, I think. Really gives you more counterplay to Breach. But now you actually have more things to try and counter too, because his Rolling Thunder ability, the detonation between blasts decreased from 0.3 to 0.255. So it moves a bit quicker, so you're gonna have to react to it faster. Because like those deep parts of it, like you can see almost like at the entrance of heaven, you're gonna have to like really pick it up so you can like play off of that. So that's one thing. You might have to have teammates lined up to play off of it a bit better too. But overall, I think it's better because less enemies will be able to get out of it. So that's definitely a good change, I think. Maybe makes him a bit tougher to react and play off of, but probably a good thing. Maybe increase the skill gap a little bit. Who knows? We'll see. And then concussion. This is the biggest change by far because we have the oppressive op meta just destroying games all over the place. This thing, though, obviously it has a crazy range as it is. Like, I can hit most part of B. Like, most camping corners of B, I can hit from here. That's kind of crazy. When you get hit by that, though, concussion, it will de-scope people, and it prevents re-scoping. So that's, like, a huge change for ops. If you can catch somebody in that, that's another thing, though. It's hard to catch people in that anyway. It does hit people more often than I thought it would, but it's still difficult regardless. And you can see the range on this. You can hit everything on C, basically. Any angle that the op people might be holding, it'll hit. So you can use this and like clear out this back angle here. And you can see if you get it right, you can see the area that I'm covering. That covered pretty much everything from like over here and to over here. So they might have been able to sneak out right here. Probably not though. But they would either have to jump up there, which they might not be able to get to if they're holding this angle, or move over and completely expose themselves. Which, you know, that's going to be a huge change overall just because it'll lessen ops. It'll give really good counterplay to ops, which wasn't really a thing if you didn't have smokes or flashes. Like, those were the only options that you had, and those were limited as it was. And just overall, the ops were just so good, even after you use your utility, just because of movement speeds and how the game works. Ops were just so good. So having this to really counter ops is going to be a huge, huge thing for this game. And that, along with what I didn't mention, also Breach has 3 flashes now. Breach is finally in a really good spot, and I think we're going to see a whole lot more Breach. Sova, they updated the physics on Sova's cape so that it would wiggle outside of his hitbox less frequently. This is going to put Sova in S tier, guys. I don't think you understand how big this change is because his cape was annoying. So those are the hero changes, but also there were some gun changes, guys. All right, let's see. All shotguns, the Aimpunch update. When getting headshot by a shotgun, the Aimpunch will be lower than all the other weapons. That makes sense. Shotguns were so easy to get headshots from at all ranges. If you were able to just like peek a corner and shoot this and find a head somehow, it won't do any damage, but you'll still get that Aimpunch. And Aimpunch is a big thing because, like, you know, it completely throws your aim off. So it only makes sense that that is more in tune. I feel like that should be scaled overall depending on how much damage you do. Like if you do like a 149 headshot, like you should be like launched in the air. But if you do a 10 damage headshot because you're sniping with a shotgun, you really shouldn't be impacted at all. Maybe one day they'll add a scale for that, just for like based on damage. But for now, just the shotguns having less aim punch overall is probably better. So that's good. All shotguns tagged tuning for targets beyond 10 meters. Hitting an enemy past 10 meters will apply a different tagging value to them instead of the standard tagging. New tagging 30% slow for 0.5 seconds on a smooth curve going back to normal speed. That makes sense too, because if there's someone out in the open and you had a shotgun out, you could just keep on shooting them and they wouldn't really be able to move. They wouldn't be able to escape that, and you could just chip the damage away for basically a target who's like moving like dumb slow, just because like that's how tagging worked. So the fact that that's like less of a trap now with a shotgun makes more sense. It's probably better. I definitely think it's a better change because, again, like just the distance that you had with shotguns and like pulling that shit off, it was just not fun to play against. It really didn't make much sense either. So that's definitely a good change, and I think very necessary. And now the Shorty was nerfed. The fall-off range was reduced from 9 meters to 7 meters. The first fall-off range. Okay, so this needs to be adjusted here. Riot, watch my videos. It's a 0 to 9. It's 0 to 7. So now instead of doing, this damage up to 9 meters, it does this damage up to 7 meters, despite what this says. And then the fall-off range, it changes to this now. So straight up nerf there. You're going to have to get up more closely with the Shorty, which makes sense. It is the Shorty. It's kind of a short-range shotgun for a reason. And they updated the headshot multiplier from 3x to 2x, which is the same as the other shotguns in the game. So that kind of sucks too. Really a big nerf overall of the Shorty. You're going to see a lot less like range kills, a lot less double kills with the Shorty. You're going to have to get close and really chunk people, hit a lot of pellets. So that's a tough nerf for our Shorty over here. Kind of a sad day, but probably necessary. And now the bucket didn't go under. It changes. The judge, the price, there was this heavily rumored price increase. The judge finally got there, 1,500 to 1,600. And you could see it. There were a lot of times where a Jet would just buy a judge over and over again, use all her smokes and dash in and just get up in your face and use the judge. It's still going to be really effective for that. That playstyle hasn't been nerfed at all, but it's going to be a bit more expensive now, so makes more sense. I like that change. The judge, I guess, it wasn't really used that much anyway, but if you were abusing it like you could with Jet, you could just get a lot of money overall and just stack up your bank and buy for teammates. So it was kind of a weird, annoying playstyle that was too beneficial economically. So good change there. And then lastly, the Vandal buff. Increase the rate of fire from 9.25 to 9.75. So you can hear that there. Bit of a change there. Let's see if they adjusted this. Yeah, no, the fire rate was adjusted here, so that's good. That was a good change. It's going to be a little bit shorter time now, because the big thing was if you hit 3 body shots and died, you're screwed. But if you hit 4, you're good. This thing's a lot more closely, a lot tighter to the Phantom now. So, and plus it also increased its damage from 39 to 40. That's really not going to be a huge difference. It doesn't really change those values. So now when you hit 3 times, it's going to hit for 120 instead of what, 127 or 117 or whatever. So that isn't really a huge change. It's going to make a difference when like you're comboing, when you're double shooting people, when someone's shooting with a Phantom and you're shooting with a Vandal. It might take one less bullet there, but overall it's really not a huge deal. Oh, server hit video effects confirms will now spawn at the location of the hit on the character and stay attached to that position. Thank God, dude. That was the worst thing in the world. I'm sure there were still times where like I feel like I should have gotten headshots anyway. Dude, that wasn't a headshot. But like if you were shooting somebody and you shot them in the chest and then they crouched, that blood splatter would still be at that level. So if they were like in the process of crouching and you hit them at like the top, like lower neck area, or even like in the neck, by the time they were crouched, that blood splatter would be like on their face. So it looks like a headshot. Like it really looks like a headshot. And it just feels like shit. So now that they changed that, thank God, that's going to be huge. Just for like making the game feel better. And adjust the size of headshot VFX, where both blood and sparks are scaled down slightly. Yeah, that was one thing I noticed too. People used to like pop if you hit them in the head. Like if you op headshotted, it was like a balloon, like a water balloon just exploding. So probably a better change there. Especially at large ranges, headshot VFX would often cover the head. Oh, yeah, that's also a big thing. Because with the op, it doesn't really matter because they're dead anyway. But if you, like, shot somebody with a Phantom, or even, like, with something like a Spectre, and you were at a range and you hit a headshot, that only does, 66 damage? So you need to hit that 3 times. So if you hit that twice, like, you're kind of blocking where the enemy is for a decent amount of time with a blood splatter, which is kind of annoying. That's a problem. So that's a really good change. Somebody's peeking an angle like this and just watching. If you were, like, pushing that with a Shorty or something, or no, a Spectre rather. If you got the headshot, like, they would disappear for a second behind that blood splatter, and they can literally just crouch and get somewhere else. Like, they would absolutely vanish. So that change is a good thing, especially for situations like that. No complaints here. I think that's a good thing. Hope you guys enjoyed me going over those changes and my opinions on it. I know my opinions don't hold too much weight, but I do play and watch a whole lot of Valorant, so maybe they do hold some weight. Either way, that's what I think. Overall, you know, Sage not the end of the world, even though people are saying it's like the end of the world for Sage. Like, her legs aren't cut off. She's still very viable and a bit more useful in certain situations. Breach, huge changes. He's going to be a lot more prevalent now, especially because it's an op meta, and he's probably the best counter to ops now with 3 flashes and his stun, unscoping people. Viper's huge. Viper's big now. I thought Viper was viable last patch. She's even better now, though, so that's, like, crazy. I'm probably going to be playing more Viper now. So, again, go and check out those lineup videos because you're going to need those lineups. Those are still hugely important to her because you need to get those smokes in those key spots. So that's huge. Killjoy, slight nerfs, not a big deal. She'll still be Killjoy. Sova, huge changes. Gonna see a lot more Sova play. That cape, man. Huge cape changes. And then, yeah, Vandal's better now. Use the Vandal. Thanks for watching.